morning, everyone. Good morning. So this is a terrific way to start our day today, and it's really a historic moment, a historic step forward in the ongoing challenge that the city of Los Angeles has in meeting the what's really the human rights crisis of our time in our city, and that is our struggle with homelessness. And you are standing today in what soon will be occupied by as many as 200 people who are currently living on the streets. This is the Alexandria Park Tiny Home Village, the largest tiny home village, the largest facility of its kind in the entire state of California. Yeah. And this is the second such facility that I've opened now in my district. The first one is over on Chandler, and since the day it opened, it has been an unmitigated success. Filled up immediately. There's a waiting list of people who want to get into these tiny homes, and there's a good reason for that. For people who are currently living on the streets, to have their own private space with a door that locks, with air conditioning, with heating, with electrical supply, with shelves that they can put their items on, with drawers that they can store their items on, with beds. This is a life-changing moment to go from living in a tent on a sidewalk to living in your own private, secure, hygienic space like this. And what's even more important is that once someone comes into this kind of a bridge housing facility, it's not just the roof that they get. It's what happens once they're here, because of the services that are provided, in this case, by Hope of the Valley, an incredible nonprofit service provider that provides 3 meals a day to people who are living here. We have on-site shower facilities, bathroom facilities, laundry facilities, and most importantly, the ongoing counseling and navigation services that Hope of the Valley provides to once and for all break the cycle of homelessness for the people who walk through these doors. If they need mental health care, to get them the mental health care they need. If they need substance abuse help, to get them the substance abuse help they need. If they need a job, to help connect them to a job, and always for everyone to connect them to more permanent housing. And I am very pleased to say that Hope of the Valley's record in this has been phenomenal. Folks who come in to bridge housing run by Hope of the Valley typically stay in that bridge housing for 3 to 4 months. And then they're in more permanent housing, and they're on their road to long-term recovery and the end of homelessness for those people once and for all. Where you're standing right now is in the middle of Alexandria Park. And just a few months ago, Alexandria Park was almost a symbol of failure. It was a place filled with homeless encampments. It was a place where there were repeated fires and assaults and drug use. Under that overpass, we've had multiple fires affecting the encampments and the tents that were there. We have the fire department responding about 20 times a month to this site. So it was a place that was a place of desperation that today we're changing into a place of hope. It was a place that was a problem, a significant problem for the entire surrounding neighborhood, but most importantly, it was a place of desperation for those who were forced by circumstances to take up residence in this park or in this wash or on that embankment leading to the freeway. And today, the people who are living in those conditions are being given an opportunity to come out of those circumstances into bridge housing and ultimately into more permanent housing. So it's transformative for the people who will live here. It's transformative for the neighborhood surrounding this park, and it's transformative for our city. And I couldn't be prouder to be opening this facility today. And I also couldn't be prouder to be here with the incredible partners who made this happen. And certainly, first among them is the leader of our city, our Mayor Eric Garcetti, who throughout his time in office has focused like a laser beam on trying to find new solutions for homelessness, to try to find opportunity for those who are without opportunity, to find housing for those who are without housing, to find shelter for those who are without shelter. To try to break this cycle has been one of Mayor Garcetti's most important priorities, and it has shown. It's shown in his commitment. It's shown in the State of the City remarks that he made just the other day. And it's shown, and I can tell you as the budget chair for the City Council, it's shown in his proposed budget for the coming year, which devotes almost $1 billion to homelessness in this year's budget alone. So I'm very, very pleased to introduce our great mayor, Mayor Eric Garcetti. Mayor. One second.
Well, thank you so much to an amazing friend and a tremendous council member, Paul Krekorian, who with me is demonstrating the latest in municipal matching fashion today. He is an amazing human being who I have been honored to serve alongside, and I'm a little emotional these days. I mean, even when I did the press conference a couple days ago on the budget, which is not a very emotional, well, it is for us, an emotional topic, to see all the press corps, and thank you for the work that you have done, members of the press, during this pandemic. Congratulations to Christina Pascucci for your wedding as well. We're all human beings as well as people who are working. Congratulations to all the city family, which it's really wonderful now that people are getting vaccinated to be around and to see face to face, not two-dimensionally, but three-dimensionally. Thank you to our communities that have not stopped working. And I said we would never stop working in this pandemic to address our toughest problems, not just COVID-19, but homelessness, racial justice, and so much more. And this is a very emotional place for me to be physically, because I grew up as a Valley boy going to the movies all the time, just right here. As a mayor, I've done outreach work right here on these embankments. I've done the census, homeless census count, I think 3 different years right here. So like the council member, nobody knows a district as well as the council member, but of all the places in the city, I try to quietly do outreach work whenever I can to get a sense of how people are doing on the streets and just volunteer, because I think it's important for all of us, no matter our titles, to put that time in. And this was a community. You know, when we were talking and saying when we came here, and I think it was Sylvia, you were saying this, that there was no uproar from the neighbors. That's because the neighbors were here. These are the neighbors, and they are our neighbors. And so to be with so many friends, I'll get to Hope of the Valley and the Crafts, who are just the most amazing saints in this city, by the way. And we've got to keep meeting like this. This is the council member and the organization through which we've done the first homeless navigation center in the city, the first bridge home in the valley, the first tiny home village just a couple months ago. Now the biggest tiny home village, not just in LA, but in the state. And you keep saying yes. You keep saying yes. We keep finding a way to do it with a city family that also says yes. I think there might be the impression out there, we don't know where surplus property is. It's Wendy Gruhl, who, when she was a city controller, probably put on a list that this was a surplus piece of property or a piece of property that we could use. It is our city engineer, Gary Lee Moore, who, whether it's a bridge home or tiny villages, has figured out together with, in this case, an amazing Rec and Parks department. Sylvia Patsouris, thank you for your leadership on the board. A civilian volunteer like Wendy Gruhl, who serves as commissioners now, to give almost full-time attention to our city, to say that Rec and Parks isn't just about recreation and parks, it's about quality of life, and finding ways to get there. Even Tim Allen's here. I haven't seen Tim Allen in almost a decade. We used to do a lot of work in Hollywood on youth with the Hollywood YMCA, and thank you for your quiet but important leadership as well, to just say, what do you need and how can I help? Michael Ayer, who is a dear, dear friend for so many years, when we shared a neighborhood in the Silver Lake area. And congratulations on the LA Times piece, and just on the humanity that you've brought to architecture to show that you can do things right that also lift people up. The color, the style, the space, and to do it affordably. So I know when you start, there's a bunch of things I probably forgot. To Wells Fargo for your financial partnership on this too, I want to thank as well. The CAO's office, Deborah Weintraub, who really deserves a ton of credit as well, the city's chief deputy architect. This is a moment of a lot of hope for me. And I know it doesn't feel like that when you drive through the city, because people say this city looks dirty and people are encamped everywhere. But to me, it is a moment of deep hope, because I know the numbers and I know the commitment and I know the team that is here. As I said in my State of the City address, addressing some of our problems is really, really tough. When I came in as your mayor 8 years ago, I even had people on my own staff saying, don't touch homelessness. It's a county responsibility, a state, federal problem. You don't even have the resources. None of the causes in, none of the solutions out are with the city. And I think together with a city council that said we don't care what our lane is, we've been laying a foundation that is unprecedented. And we cannot still do it alone. Which is why I encourage all of you, because I'll never lose an opportunity to organize. Call your state legislators and call the governor and encourage them to join what cities, 13 major cities in the state have called for. And now Tony Atkins, our president of the Senate, has now introduced to put at least $4 billion a year for at least 4, maybe 5 years from the state, $50 billion, that's $50 billion surplus that they have into homelessness. Because this isn't just an LA problem. This is a Fresno problem and an Oakland problem. This is a Long Beach problem and a Santa Ana problem. This is a San Diego problem and a Sacramento problem. It is everywhere in the state, and not just in the state, but let's focus on what we can do in California. Next, talk to your members of Congress. And I want to thank our president, who I drove by when we were at an earlier event. We drove by Bobrick, which is where, when he was vice president, he came out here to help us raise the minimum wage, and he's now our president. And the only thing I asked of him when I joined his campaign as national co-chair was to make housing a human right, because I was sick and tired of cleaning up everything afterwards at the local level. I think we should make mental health an early intervention human right as well. But certainly housing, if we housed people first, got them indoors, and in this budget that the president has proposed, it is a dramatic increase in that right. It is not yet universal, but you will see housing choice vouchers, Section 8 vouchers, move forward at a level we've never seen. And the White House is looking at Project Home Key, a model program that we, with the governor, put forward to buy buildings that folks from these tiny homes can move into permanently, to move forward to buy dozens more buildings if we can get that in the budget as well. So I don't think I said any of my talking points, but that is from the heart. No idea is too crazy, and there's nothing we won't try. And I hope that everybody will not find a reason to be upset and to be divided and to throw stones, but instead to pick them up and to start building them into structures, into walls to hold back this tide and prevent homelessness, new homes that will house people and give them a place to put their head at the end of the night. And here in the valley, that you can invest in truly what is the hope of this valley. Our ability to say that every human being is a creation of God, is worthy of our love, of our support, and there but for the grace of God go I. That is us. We are housing ourselves when we house one of our brothers and sisters. So thank you for making this dream a reality. Anybody need anything in Spanish? If not, okay, sorry. Discúlpame. Okay, now I'll stick to my talking points. Muy buenos días a todos, y es un día increíble. Como un nativo de este valle de San Fernando, esta tierra aquí, este lugar es muy importante para mí, porque como un joven en el pasado, este fue el teatro por las películas que yo y mi hermana vinieron a este lugar. Pero hoy este es una transformación de este tierra, este lugar, este parque, para proveer la esperanza y hogares para nuestros vecinos. Y hoy celebramos la apertura del pueblo de casas pequeñas, Alexandria Park, con 103 nuevas casas y 200 camas para los más vulnerables de la comunidad. Y gracias al concejal Krekorian y su equipo y todos los miembros de la familia de la ciudad, siempre he dicho que no hay ninguna idea muy loca ni una muy atrevida. Si le dará viviendas a la gente con los recursos necesarios. Hoy es un hito hacia esa misión. La apertura del pueblo de casas pequeñas, Alexandria Park, el cual antes era un parque y recientemente un lote vacío. Ahora es un lugar para que nuestros vecinos más vulnerables encuentren refugio, apoyo y un camino hacia adelante. Este refugio es más que un símbolo u otra estadística. Cuenta una historia poderosa. Esta apertura significa que más de 200 angelinos podrán dormir en un lugar cómodo en vez de dormir en una acera. Y significa que los residentes viviendo aquí se unirán a aquellos durmiendo tranquilos en las más de 2,000 camas que hemos hecho disponible desde el comienzo de la pandemia. Este es increíble. Este pueblo no solo es solo un lugar al cual podrán llamar hogar. Es un lugar en donde se encuentra esperanza. Por eso la extraordinaria gente de Hope of the Valley proveerán a cada residente con amplios recursos para poder ponerse de pie, incluyendo navegación de recursos de vivienda, consejería, administración de caso y un plan de acción personal para poder quedarse en el camino hacia vivienda permanente. Gracias a este grupo de ángeles en la ciudad de Ángeles. Gracias. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for indulging. Sorry? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So as I mentioned, the city of Los Angeles built this facility. The city of Los Angeles built the facility on Chandler. We brought in these homes. We prepared the site. We went to a lot of effort and expense to ensure that we built a facility that really worked for these purposes. But what really matters about a facility like this is not so much what it looks like, but what happens here. And what happens here is the result of our extraordinary service provider that we contract with, as the mayor mentioned, both for my Chandler facility, for the navigation facility that we have, for our 2 bridge home shelters in my district. For all of those, our service provider partner has been the nonprofit Hope of the Valley, which for many, many years has been changing lives here in the San Fernando Valley, thanks to the extraordinary leadership of Ken and Lori Kraft and all those who volunteer and support Hope of the Valley's work. So I couldn't be more pleased to partner with Hope of the Valley again here at Alexandria Park, and I'd like to offer a few moments for Ken Kraft to come on up and talk about what happens here once these tiny homes are filled. Ken Kraft.
And I'm going to ask Lori to come on up here as well. And Lori is our Chief Programs Officer, and she understands the details of what goes on in our programs and is making it happen. And I actually wrote my comments down this time to keep them focused, but as opposed to just rambling, as I typically do. But I also want to thank BOE, Bureau of Engineering. You guys are amazing in what you've put together, the design, and thank you. But Mayor Eric Garcetti and Councilman Paul Krekorian, as an inclusive, faith-based organization that deeply believes in the dignity, worth, and value of every human being, we thank God for you and your unwavering commitment and leadership to create, fund, and support innovative, affordable, and scalable housing solutions. 2 months ago, we gathered together for the ribbon cutting ceremony at the first tiny home community in the city of Los Angeles on Chandler Boulevard. Because it was new, there were plenty of critics and skeptics. Well, Hope of the Valley, your on-site service provider, is here to tell you that Chandler site has been a great success, a life-saving and life-changing facility and endeavor. With a single point of entry, a 9-foot high fence, video surveillance, on-site security guards, amazing staff, and a locking front door. Residents feel safe, and within the confines of their safety, they are free to dream once again. Hope is renewed, and now residents are getting jobs, breaking free from addiction, healing from trauma, and being placed into permanent housing. To quote some of our residents at the Chandler Tiny Home site, the first one was a woman who came to me and shared with me. She said, "I now have hope that I'm going to be okay," after her house burned down 5 years ago, and she's been living in her car ever since. Another person told me, "With access to daily showers, laundry, and meals, I feel human again." Another resident said, "I no longer have fear for my life," from a woman who was sexually abused in the wash. Another said, "I feel like I won the lottery living here. It's my own private gated community." Another said, "Please thank the mayor and councilmen for giving us a chance." Mayor Garcetti, Councilman Krekorian, on behalf of our board chairwoman, Teresa Jackson, who is here, our board of directors, and our incredibly dedicated staff, it is our highest honor and extreme privilege to provide the operational and social services to the residents of Alexandria Park. We are proud to align ourselves with your vision and leadership. We sincerely believe that generations to come will look back on this city administration as the turning point in creating the necessary affordable housing, reversing housing inequality, and ending the humanitarian crisis of homelessness in our great city. Thank you for allowing us to serve with you.
Thank you so much, Ken and Lori. Thank you for what you do every day, and thank you for those exceedingly kind comments. We appreciate that very much. So, the mayor was just mentioning to me how quickly this facility was built and how great it looks. And that happened because of our extraordinary city team that made this happen. And as with all great infrastructure projects, at the head of that team is our city engineer, Gary Lee Moore, who oversaw the entire site preparation and construction of this site and made it happen quickly, on budget, and made it look terrific. So I want to introduce Gary Lee Moore, our city engineer.
Morning. Good morning. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here. And we get an opportunity to build many, many projects, but there's no higher calling that the Mayor Garcetti, and Councilman Krekorian have asked us to do, and that's to build homeless housing. And it's just a joy and a pleasure to be here this morning. And it absolutely, I want to say a little extra about Councilman Krekorian on this one, because when we started the design on this, we placed these and we'd share it with Councilman Krekorian, and he'd say, well, a little to the left, a little to the right. Then we go back and we'd place it a little to the left, a little to the right. He'd say, what about this? What about that? And then, of course, the community gave input. Councilman Krekorian shared that with us. And, you know, this layout is special. Is when we did this layout, no front door looks into another front door. Privacy is important. People are transitioning here. They're going from this into permanent housing. And this is their first step after a long time on the streets. And a little bit about this facility and this 200-bed facility. We used 3 hygiene mobile trailers, and each one of them has 5 restrooms, and they have showers, also water stations. We used 3 8x40 modular shipping containers to speed up the construction, and this houses the administrative offices, case managers, and on-site laundry facilities. You'll see seating and umbrellas throughout the site for gathering and meal services. And pets are welcome here. And that's also something very important, as people have their pets, and it helps transition them into this. We have this very nice fence pet area. We're at a park, and it was important to maintain all the trees. And I look forward to being back here in a few years when homelessness is eliminated and we're back and we've removed all these tiny homes and the trees are still here because we didn't touch them, and it's back to the park. Color. You know, in our initial design, we had color. And we had a great partner in this in 4DC, our contractor. And with Michael Lear, the architect, took our color and added and enhanced. And it's a wonderful and inviting environment. And I just want to say finally, thanks to the staff. And we couldn't have done this without this tremendous staff. And from our Bureau of Contract Administration, the partner out here, and on his last job of overseeing construction, Sam, I want to thank you. I know you're retiring in just a few weeks, so thank you, Sam. And finally, from my own department, I want to thank Marina, who oversees our shelter and housing projects, Marcelino, who was our construction manager, Jose Fuentes, our deputy city engineer over this. Thank you to the entire team, and Eric Villanueva, I see him also. So thank you all, and please, and lastly, I want to thank Hope of the Valley. It was so great that the mayor and the council selected and brought you in at the beginning, because it's a streamlined partnership. We love working with you, and we can't thank you enough, and want to do many, many more of these. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Gary. Thank you, Gary, to you and your team. Extraordinary work. And you're certainly right about changing design. We did go through a little bit of that. But I'm going to say that part of that was because we wanted this to be a facility that not only worked for the residents here, not only served the needs that Hope of the Valley had in providing those services, but also worked for the surrounding community as well. And this community was engaged. And I especially want to thank the Laurel Grove Neighborhood Association, as well as the NoHo Neighborhood Council, for coming in support of this project and saying yes to this project, because they saw how it's an improvement to their neighborhood to take the status quo, which was not acceptable, and to change it. And so I'm very grateful to the surrounding neighborhood for supporting this project. And that brings me to my next guest, because this was a park. It was a community park that couldn't be used by the surrounding neighborhood because of the state that it was in. And we're changing that today. And we're changing that today in part because our Board of Recreation and Parks was courageous enough to step up and say, yes, in this time of crisis, we need to take park facilities where appropriate and utilize them to be able to bring our unhoused population into shelter and help to break the cycle. And we're very honored in the city to have as the chair of our Board of Recreation and Parks someone who has a master's degree in urban planning, so knows, you know, how this should go in the first place, but also is very deeply dedicated not only to using our parks for their purpose, recreation, but also understanding that in this time of crisis, as one of the founding board members of our Los Angeles Homeless Services Agency, Sylvia Patsouris sees the need to be able to use those facilities to be able to get us out of this crisis. And so I'm very pleased to introduce the chair of our Board of Recreation and Parks, Sylvia Patsouris.
Thank you, Councilmember. And good morning, Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I only have a few words to say. It's really a great pleasure for me to be here representing the Board of Commissioners of Recreation and Parks, because these projects are so critical. Like the Councilmember said, I was on the Board of Homelessness for when it was first created. And so it's been an issue that I have been very concerned for many years, and it pains me that all these decades later, it's still such a terrible issue in this city. But the mayor has been addressing it, and with the assistance from the council people also. And also from so many residents. We have residents who, of course, always say that they don't want such a facility in their community because they don't know what it means to have this type of facility. I came, when we were going to consider this park, I came to visit it, and I wanted to see how it related to the neighborhood. And what I saw were homeless people here and no neighborhood activity. And so I want to congratulate Councilmember Krekorian for the wise selection of this site. At Recreation and Parks, we, of course, don't want to give up our parks for any other purpose than for what they were intended to be. But when the use comes for this type of shelter and on a location as this one, it's a very wise decision to make. And so I congratulate you, Council Member. And also, I want to thank Gary for protecting the trees, because that's something that's really precious in this city. And so we look forward to the day when we don't have to use any of our parkland for housing the unsheltered. But in the meantime, we're just so happy to be able to be part of this project. Thank you, and thank you for being here. Sí, y también no he preparado ninguna palabras en español, pero sí quiero decir que es un placer para mí estar aquí, porque este proyecto es algo muy esencial para la ciudad. Soy la presidente de la Comisión de Recreación y Parque de Los Ángeles, y nosotros tratamos de proteger a nuestros parques, pero en este tipo de proyecto es un proyecto que es muy esencial para la ciudad. Ahorita que el problema de la gente que no tiene, que vive en las calles es tan importante. Así es de que por eso estoy muy contenta de estar aquí con ustedes. Es el primer evento al que voy este año y lo hice porque es un evento tan importante. Gracias. Sí. Silvia Patzauras. Gracias.
Thank you, Ms. Patsouris. And of course, we also want to thank the incredible general manager of Recreation and Parks, Mike Shaw, and all the men and women who work at Rec and Parks for making this happen as well. So the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority is a joint venture of the city and the county. It works, among other things, providing outreach to our homeless population and trying to connect folks living on the street to the services that are available to them. And I'm very pleased today to be able to introduce the chair of the board of LASA, who happens not only to be a great partner in that role to ensure that we get people from this surrounding community who are now homeless into this facility, but she's also somebody who has represented this very neighborhood in my office as our former council member for this district and our former city controller. I'm very pleased to introduce a great champion on this issue and a great friend, Wendy Gruhl.
Thank you so much, council member. And I think that you said it best earlier, which is this is an opportunity and a time where people are saying yes. And I think that you have made sure that yes was building a facility like this. Yes is saying to the neighborhood, we can do better. Yes is getting our departments to, as they always have, to step up and to do things that were not in their job description, and to have the leaders such as Sylvia Patsouris at Rec and Parks be able to say, yes, we are going to partner in that. I think it does help that you're budget chair. I will just say that as well. But it is because of your leadership and the mayor's leadership. I think you said as well, Mayor, that we have to look at every single option that is out there. We can't just say the status quo is okay. We can't just accept the ways we've done it before. And that we're at the precipice of what you have led in this last several years of creating new facilities. It does take time. Sylvia can attest to the fact that when you served on the LASA Commission, this is not a problem that just started yesterday. It is one that continues, and it will take a while for us to be able to house all of those who are unsheltered. I'm pleased to be here today on behalf of LASA and our team, our Executive Director Heidi Marston, and our many outreach workers and others who work very closely with organizations such as Hope of the Valley, who provide those services, and our opportunity to really be a connector and an opportunity for us to be able to provide the funding for the various sources that are necessary to make these kinds of facilities available. I I think you will see with the leadership of Paul Krekorian and Mayor Garcetti that this is just one of many. But Paul, you are to be congratulated that it's the first two were in your district, not just the first one, but the first two, and the time in which you took to make it happen expeditiously. And I think it is important as we talk to people and you look at this place where it is, you have privacy, you have a door, you have a way in which to go to that next step, and permanent supportive housing is very, very important. And as our outreach workers talk to people on the street, they share with them that this is a facility where you can close your door, you will have a restroom and a shower, and you will have the services necessary to go to that next step. And as we see people on the streets, we know that there are going to be places that they're going to be able to put their head down and be able to sleep in a safe and healthy place. And as this last year of COVID showed us that you can move mountains, that you can do different things that you never thought possible. And I think the silver lining with Project Room Key and Project Home Key and these tiny homes and ABH sites, we've shown that the best thing that we can do is to get people off the streets and into housing. And I'm just so pleased to be here on behalf of LAHSA and the many hardworking men and women who are part of LAHSA, and to thank you, Councilmember Krekorian, for your leadership here and what you do. And Mayor Garcetti, I think I'm going to thank you for putting me on this commission and working on this issue. But pleased to be able to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendy. I have one final guest before we go to questions, and he is a guy who knows a thing or two about building things, so we're glad to have him here. But he's also a business leader. He's a name you'll certainly know, and a face you'll certainly know. But he's also a business leader in our community, and as a business leader who has had to grapple with the impacts of homelessness, he's taken a very active role, not only in supporting causes like Hope of the Valley, but actually personally going out and interacting with the homeless population in the neighborhood, trying to lend a hand, trying to help them get on the right path. So it's really an honor to be able to introduce our next speaker, Tim Allen. Tim?
Give it a couple extra whites now, please.
Yeah, he spits a little bit.
He spits a lot.
Good. It's good. Thanks. Just wanted to say hi. Thank you all for. First, I'm humbled and grateful to be asked to do this. I want to make a joke because I took the mask off. I have a Danish neighbor who every time I go over to her house with the mask, she goes, "Is that rash still out there?" She just won't do it. I wanted to get into this. These two gentlemen I've known in various ways for over a decade. Councilman and I, we all differ. We go to different sides sometimes, but he came out to my shop. We've been out there for almost 20 years, and we planted. It was all about planting trees in my neighborhood, which is very difficult, believe it or not, to give the city free trees. It's been the strangest process, but we put a bunch of trees in a very bad neighborhood, got it paved, did the best we could to take care of the homeless in my neighborhood, and it's been a very, very difficult process. It's because you're moving people from one side of the street to the other. That being said, I'm especially listening and watching all you people, I'm really impressed, and I will go back to my side and say that things are happening. When I saw this facility on Chandler, that opened my heart up, but I said the individuals that I've tried to help personally, it's been very difficult. So what you guys do, you men and women, it's amazingly difficult, complex task, the face-to-face on each person. Been in a sober program myself for 24 years. It's very difficult to get people to want to help. Working with the Midnight Mission downtown, you need to, we can provide it, but if you don't want to move this direction, and the crafts have made this an amazing process. I can't tell you from out there in the public how this works. What I will really, learning this from Midnight Mission on the way through, I hope this works out today. If you go online to hopeofthevalley.com, they will have a wish list of how you can help. And that's what I think is very important for the public. Besides money, of course, and your time, specifically if you need sheets, towels, and they put this online. Covenant House also does this, and I really want, if you're sitting at home, what I want, I was able to help the YMCA because they said specifically, what can you do? And I like to get in there and do it. And this will start. I hope we got this right. Hopeofthevalley.com. Right now it's through Amazon, and they will tell you specifically things you can do to help out. And I'm just blessed to be part of this thing. I said it's my block is still a difficult out in my area. This is hope for the Valley, hope for all of us, and I just so appreciate what you guys have done and inviting me here. So thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Tim, and thanks for that call to action. It's hopeofthevalley.org, right? Hopeofthevalley.org. So let's not make that mistake. Hopeofthevalley.org.
That's what they call two takes around.
Thank you, Tim. Before we go to questions and close, I just want to take a moment, too, because I see Meg Barkley over there. And so I want to thank Meg and the entire office of the CAO, as well as our Chief Legislative Analyst's office, who is really very helpful in getting this done. And lastly, but certainly not least, I want to thank the extraordinary people who work on my team, the professionals who serve this community, starting with my Chief of Staff, Caro Tarosian, with Matt Hale, Jackie Keene, Lorraine Diaz, Cairo Rodriguez, who's here. Is Tiffany? Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Tiffany, who and do Tom Waldman, who's here, and Nade Sargsyan. Thank you all very much for making this happen, because I get to give speeches, but they every day go and do the hard work of making things like this a reality. So I really want to thank you, each and every one.